The last part of this chapter consists of similes for the mind. Vasishta continued, O Ram, this mind is like a tree which is firmly rooted in the vicious field known as the body. Worries and anxieties are its blossoms. It is laden with the fruits of old age and disease. It is adorned with the flowers of desires and sense enjoyments. Hopes and longings are its branches, and perversities are its leaves. Cut down this deadly poisonous tree, which looks as unshakable as the mountain, with the sharp axe known as enquiry. You turn the attention to itself, and from there you examine awareness. And within awareness there's stuff going on. And this is when the sharp axe known as enquiry is practiced. You turn that axe to the tendency to get caught up in stories. So when your awareness is centered on itself and there's awareness of stuff going on, it might be there's awareness of pain, emotional pain, and that's quite a good one to have. And I think it's actually a very likely one to have, because if you're feeling great, the chances are you're probably not going to be reading this. So actually, what's harder to deal with than pain is feeling good, is feeling great, is feeling blissful even. Because when you're feeling blissful, you just want to go for it. And then that feeling of bliss usually comes to a halt at some point, and then the pain sets in. So pain is easy. This is the practice of inquiry. We need to look at what's going on. And if you're studying, if you're following the Yoga Vasishta, what's your pattern? The Yoga Vasishta, this particular edition, has been split into daily readings. So maybe you could do a daily reading first thing in the morning before your meditation. And then that's it sorted. That's you done your bit. I think maybe Swami Venkatesananda might have been influenced by some British missionaries who were quite keen on doing this sort of thing, like a Sunday school reading each day or daily reading. But really we should be picking the Yoga Vasishta up when we don't feel like reading it. That's interesting. That gives us an interesting perspective. Is self-inquiry something we do at a certain time of the day? And that's it for that, and that's it for today. It's something which should be practiced every day. Maybe if you're studying Yoga Vasishta, you might read a little bit in the morning before going to work. Or take it with you. Read it during your lunch break. Reading it during a coffee break. You might have to answer some awkward questions from colleagues. Well, there's something to look at. What sort of feelings does that engender? This sort of thing can go on all the time. So it's good to be able to pick up the Yoga Vasishta, not just as part of a routine, not just when you're feeling bad, but also when you're feeling really good. O Ram, this mind is like an elephant which roams the forest known as the body. Its vision is clouded by delusion. It has entered into the one conditioned and ignorant side. It is incapable of resting in its own self-bliss. It is violent, though it wishes to perceive the truth which it hears from wise men. It is caught up in the perception of diversity, and is conditioned by its own concepts of pleasure and pain. It is endowed with the fierce tusks of lust, etc. O Ram, you are a lion among princes. Tear this elephant to pieces by your sharp intelligence. So we practice this sharp acts of inquiry And we are brutal about it. Brutal. You don't let yourself off the hook for an instant. We've got all these stories, all our excuses. We've got to go for it. We don't have any truck with this cognitive process, with this mind, which has all its excuses for not resting in its own nature. O Ram, this mind is like a crow, which dwells in the nest of this body. It revels in filth. It waxes strong by consuming flesh. It pierces the hearts of others. We've got this fear of pollution coming in again. It waxes strong by consuming flesh. I think this is a traditional notion in India that flesh eating inflames the passions. Meat eating is an extraordinary phenomenon, really. It supports this vast industry of suffering and slaughter simply to support our own taste preferences. And people that consider themselves otherwise decent and nice are quite happy to ignore this fact. We all know that animals have got, anybody that's got a pet, a dog, knows that they've got character, knows that they've got personality, knows that they've got a life. And yet we'll subject these creatures, these other sentient beings, to imprisonment, incarceration, foul conditions, and ultimate slaughter and butchery, so that they can end up in nice polystyrene packaging in our local supermarket. It really is such an extraordinary exercise in blindness, in self-delusion. I would say meat eating is one of the great ways that, and the most obvious ways that the mind deludes itself. There's very little justification for eating meat, but we'll do it. We'll create stories for it to justify it. It pierces the hearts of others. It knows only its own point of view, which it considers as the truth. It is dark on account of its ever-growing stupidity. It is full of evil tendencies, and it indulges in violent expressions. It is a burden on earth, O Ram. Drive it far, far away from yourself.